we're going to start the birdhouse project. The objectives of this project is to learn how to accurately measure, lay out straight lines. We're going to continue to use the miter box saws we have all week, and then we're going to assemble the birdhouse. The first thing we want to do, we want to look on our plan. We have two different sizes of wood. This piece here measures 3.5 inches. You can see from the plan there are a couple of pieces, the sides and the bottom measure 3.5, and then the roof in the front are going to be wider and they measure 5 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to lay out and cut the 3 pieces for my sides, the 2 sides and the bottom. As you can see from the print, they're all the same width and they're 6 3/4 of an inch long. So I'm going to start by doing that. Okay, I'm going to start by measuring out my 6 3/4, and I'm going to use the miter box to make these cuts. After I cut the 3 pieces for the bottom, I need to go ahead and measure. I need 2 pieces for the roof at 8 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to mark those out while I'm here. Now I'm going to go to the miter box. I'm going to cut all the pieces, and then we'll come back here to start the next step. Okay, here at the miter box, same procedure as the other projects. I'm going to lower the blade down, ensuring that I'm on my line, and I'm going to go ahead and make this cut. I have my saw set at 90 degrees. All right, I'm back here at my my workstation. I have my 3 pieces cut. 2 are going to create the sides, and 1 is going to create the bottom. I've also cut my front and my back piece. I cut them to the length on my plan, and then I located the center of the piece, which was 2.5, and then using my combination square, I can go ahead and put the pitch for my roof on my pieces. I cut these using the miter box saw by rotating the table to a 45-degree angle to cut this way, flipping it over, and cutting it again. Now, the next thing I have to do, one of these is going to be the back, and nothing else happens to it. The front side is going to get a large hole in it, and then a smaller hole underneath it. One is the entrance to the birdhouse, and the other one is going to be for a 1/4 inch dowel that will act as the perch for the birdhouse. So the first thing I want to do is I want to find the center of my piece. Now it says here I want to go 3.5 inches up to the center of the hole. So I'm going to measure from the bottom. I'm going to come up 3.5 inches. I'm going to put a mark. That's going to be the center of the big hole. I'm going to come down 1 inch from that, and I'm going to put the perch in. So there's going to be 2 different size holes that I'm going to drill. I'll show you that next. Okay, with my pieces laid out, I'm going to use a clamp you find in your toolbox, and I'm going to clamp my piece to the table. Put a piece of scrap plywood underneath this piece to prevent from drilling into the tabletop. Okay, the first hole that I'm going to cut is going to be using this Forstner bit. It's got a little tiny point on it, and that little point you're going to line up right over the hole. Now, if you're a right-handed person, you're going to hold the drill firmly in your right hand. If you look on either side of the switch, there's a little selector switch. One of them will make the drill turn in one direction, push it, and it will turn in the opposite direction. In order for this to cut, it has to be turning in the forward speed, which is indicated by an arrow, which points towards the drill end of the drill. The reverse side has an arrow that points back towards the operator. So we want to make sure that you push in the button so that we're pushed in, and we're going to be going straight. Okay, you're going to put the little point on the X. You're going to stand close to the piece, take your left hand and put it on the top. I'm going to pull the trigger all the way so the high speed, and I'm going to bore through with a gentle rocking motion until I go through. I'll feel it when it hits that piece of plywood. Okay, I've gotten through that one. Now I'm going to take my drill and I'm going to drill through and I'm going to put the perch in. Again, don't drill all the way through to the tabletop. You release the clamp, and now we have the front of the birdhouse. So this time we won't need the drills anymore. Okay, now we have our three pieces that create the sides and the bottom, and we have the front and the back. And the next thing we have to do is we have to cut our two pieces for the roof at 8 3/4 of an inch. Now, one thing you're going to have to do with the roof, so that when we overlap them, that both sides are the same, we need to remove 3/4 of an inch from the side of one of the roof panels. We're going to do this using the block plane. The block plane you used earlier in the week to do your bevel block project. So I'm going to go to the bench vise and I'm going to remove that stock using the block plane now. Okay, the same tools we used before. The block plane's got a blade in here, and what we want to do is we want to shave this down until we get to the line. Okay, now we're back, and I have my piece that's narrower by 3/4 of an inch from my other piece. So when I lap these together, I put the longer one on the top, and that's going to make my roof symmetrical. Okay, the next thing we have to do is we have to assemble the birdhouse. But before we assemble the birdhouse, we need to thoroughly sand all the sides using a sanding block and some 80 or 100 grit sandpaper. Alright, the technique for sanding. You use a piece of sandpaper, this is an 80 grit, and you use a small block of wood that you can get from one of your other projects, and you put the sanding paper inside the block. And you're going to sand all the finished surfaces of the birdhouse. Pick the best sides to put out, sand the good sides prior to assembly. Some sanding may be done after the birdhouse is assembled. Now for the assembly, you're going to take the bottom and the two sides. They're all identical, so it doesn't matter which one you get. Take your best side facing out, and you're going to nail the two sides on opposite sides of the bottom. You're going to put it together using these 5D box nails, the same ones you used doing your bevel siding project. You're going to set the nail so when it's driven in, it will be center of the piece that you're attaching to. I'm going to put 3 on each side. Just like in our first project, we want to make sure before we nail it home that we're flush on the bottom and we're flush on the ends. Space your nails so they're uniform distance apart on each end, and then one in the middle. I'm going to repeat that same procedure for the ends. And once I have the ends on, I'm going to stand the bottom and side assembly, and then I'm going to attach the front and then flip it over and do the back. And that's what I'll do now. Okay, here we are. We're back in our booth, and I've gotten the two sides attached to the bottom, and I've gone ahead and attached the front and the back to the sub-assembly. I've also gone ahead and put 3 nails holding the roof together, having the longer side over the top of the shorter side. And now both these dimensions are the same. Now, the final step of assembly is going to be attached the house, the top to the house. You want to make sure that you have the same amount of overhang on the front as you do on the back. And then we're going to use a screwdriver with a Phillips tip in it and some screws, and we're going to simply put 4 screws in to hold the top onto the birdhouse. The reason we're going to use screws, if you want the birds to return for a second season, you need to take the birdhouse down, take the top off, and clean it out. I'm going to finish this up by putting 2 more screws on this side and 1 in the back. And then the final step, you're going to get one of these 1/4-inch dowels. It's pre-cut for you. You're going to put a little wood glue on the end, and you're going to insert it into the hole so that it just sticks through. Once you have it all assembled, you can go back with your sanding block, and you can do any final sanding to remove any sharp corners and any pencil marks from your birdhouse. And there you go. There's your birdhouse project.